Okay, this video might be a little less structured than normal because it's not like a tutorial style. I don't have a destined endpoint. I just really need to get some thoughts out of my brain because I'm kind of getting infuriated and a little broken about this. I am a full-stack digital marketer with a content marketing specialism, but I basically say I've at least dabbled in all the fields of digital marketing. I'm competent and I believe my ability to work in like all the different areas, but I'm not a developer. I'm a marketer, so I can do web design. You've seen me do videos on web design. I don't do development because I'm not a coder. I don't understand coding languages. I can play about with a bit of HTML. I can follow tutorials that require you to copy paste snippets of code in certain places, but I can't read it and I can't write them myself. So that's where my skill set sort of intersects. And I promise you that you do not need a developer for the majority of the stuff you're hiring a developer for. I'm actually a strong believer in not doing anything that requires a developer until you can keep one on staff and you can afford to have one as an employee full time. If you work with an agency, great. Like I'm not, there are reasons to hire development agencies, but I feel like if you're building a website that has such custom requirements that you have to get a developer in, then you need to calm down and your business isn't ready for that yet. Because if you're going to be operating the back end of a website with systems that you don't understand and you have to pay out billable hours or maybe even like increase project scope, because most developers will give you support hours like between like 2 and 20 a month, and that's normally like fine depending on the size of the agency you're working with. But if you're working with someone where they have set hours, where they have certain things that they will assist you with, but then you've just come up with this amazing idea and you just have to implement it on your website, then you've added increased scope to the work and you can't act surprised when you have to tear down a lot of what you've already had coded and have it redone and think of a new structure to do it. And people seem really shocked by that. I think the fundamental issue is that most people who hire agencies for web development, actually they hire developers because they just want a website built, but they have a CMS where it's got like, there's all kinds of ones with good drag and drop functionality. My preferred setup is WordPress Elementor, but also you can have Wix, you can have Squarespace, people love Shopify for e-commerce. There's a whole bunch of options that you have that are really drag and drop, and they have set up systems, and you just have to understand how to put your information that's relevant to your business into that system, like learning how to list a product online on your shop, learning how to write a blog post, and learning what all the different data fields they present you with are actually for. People will put in what they can see funnel through on the front end, like, oh, I want text to be here, I'll write in the text of the description, oh look, the description pops up where it says I put the description, great. But there's loads of data fields that don't translate to something visible on the front end user end of the website, and people will either leave them empty, or the worst one, which is what really motivated me to make this video, is they will go to a web development agency or an individual developer, freelancer, whatever, and they will ask them to build out a functionality that already exists and they just haven't taken the time to learn the name for it. They'll see a page in the back end of their website CMS and they will just leave all the boxes empty. If they don't know what the box is for, clearly the box isn't applicable to us. We don't need that box. Let's not fill anything into it. Let's not think about the fact that search engines are scanning for this information to be able to put your content in front of the relevant audiences. Some of it will auto-populate through to social media. Like if you've attached your shop to your WooCommerce website, on like your website can funnel through to Facebook and Instagram, or it can go through to Pinterest and it can auto-populate there. It has this information on how to correctly categorize your post or your product or your page, and it has it there. But people will leave that empty because they don't know what it's for, which, to be fair, that is why you could have a web designer, which is different skill sets to a web developer. Normally the developer knows that these functionalities exist, but they want to do it in their way that they understand with their pre-existing knowledge. They're not going to aim to build it in a way that the customer can then like go off and do it themselves, because the customer might have like, essentially they will keep secrets on how to do things from you because they want to idiot proof the website. Some people just don't want to learn. Some clients don't want to learn what the empty box is for, and they don't want to learn how to do anything that they can't directly see the implications of, because if they can't see it then it's magical and it just operates without them. And like developers will sometimes build something with restricted functionality so someone with no pre-existing knowledge can put information into it if they want the client to have in like ongoing interactions with it and constantly updating new data, if they want to be the one uploading more content to the website. If you want to hand off the putting stuff onto the website, that means you're accepting more ongoing fees. And if you want to add something that doesn't already have a system implemented for it, then you're not going to know if you need the developer for that or not. And sometimes the developer will just charge you to create what you're asking for as the client because you're asking for it, and that's billable time for them. So why would they refuse your request when that's money going into their bank account when actually you don't need it at all? I'm working at a place now, obviously I'm going to not go into super detail, but I'm working at a place now where they have users submit content to the website to be published on their blog. Simple. They have a form to put that information on their blog, and they ask for a story overview, and that's what they called it. And people will take that, and it's like a summary of the blog post and what it's about, like a little tiny short intro paragraph that people can understand if they want to read it or not. And the problem is that already exists as a thing called an excerpt, and they're filling in the story overview on this form, and because the form needs to translate to what they put into the post editor for the blog, they then got the developers to create a custom data field with a plugin that they had to configure, but until I got there, no one knew how that worked. They had to create a custom data field called story overview when excerpt is already there, and they were leaving excerpt empty. An excerpt is like, yes, it's to help you choose a data field to populate onto your blog archive page so people can find certain things, but it also is known by search engines. Search engines are looking for your excerpt, and then you can, like, normally I copy paste my excerpt into the metadata description, or I edit it a little bit for the meta description, so like the search result can show like a more call to action type thing or have fewer characters because of the character limit, but it already exists. But if they've implemented a custom data field called story overview, then search engines are not looking for the story overview in order to inform their metadata and their crawling bots and all that sort of stuff. The developers did that because it was requested of them, but it doesn't actually have any real benefit in terms of getting the content seen and getting more engagement on the website. It just made the people who were taking the form, reading the form, and then putting it into the post editor, it made them feel better, but it had no benefits outside of the people who were copy pasting that information into what they thought was the relevant place was actually not the relevant place at all. So there's a caveat to this of where people who, if you don't want to hand off every element of running your website, you will have to learn something. And like people talk about like, oh, working with Gen Z is so difficult, they don't want to cooperate with people. Working with boomers is so hard because they don't want to learn anything. I'm sure there are types of people who both do and don't fall into those stereotypes, but in my circumstance, I worked with a lot of people who just don't want to know, and you don't necessarily need to know if you trust the people you're working with, which if I'm there, I will know, so that's fine. But I come into environments where it's like, tell me you haven't learned something since 2004 without telling me. It's just like, if you're unwilling, if you don't know what something is, if you don't know what an empty box in the back end of your website means, I will tell you how simple it is. You Google it. You Google, what does data field in CMS name mean? And it will almost certainly pop up with about 5 articles from the CMS provider and then a few other like major players in the digital e-commerce, digital marketing world. It will come up with several articles that tell you what it is, what the purpose of the data field is, how it benefits you, and how you should be putting information into it. I make content like that because people, if you found the video, chances are you were willing to learn, but a lot of people will never even go that far as to Google it. It used to be that tech jobs were really high paying because it's not that you have this existing information, it's that you have the ability to learn and seek out new sources of information because the landscape is ever changing. The ability to self-educate and then implement strategies and come up with plans based off information you find yourself. That used to be why technology was such a lucrative field. Not only is technology not as lucrative anymore because it's oversaturated, people trying to get into it, but it's I don't think it's necessarily a special skill to Google something and learn what it means anymore. It used to be a time like, oh, the internet's so magical. How can people even interpret it? It's so unusual. But like, it's not unusual anymore. If you're at the point where you are not constantly keeping up with technology, you're actively choosing to ignore the world around you, and I can't deal with that willful ignorance anymore. Yes, working with uneducated clients is part of the course and telling them why you need to do certain things and what the benefits to them will be and why it's worth paying someone to deal with it. That's always going to be part of it. If you want to hire me to do it, you don't need to learn. But these situations where people will hire for a single project and then just want to hop in at the tail end of it and be able to like play about on the keyboard and put in some fancy text with colors. It's never that simple. If you don't want to follow the exact structure that is in place, because websites are all built off structures. They are existing systems of input and output, and they're predetermined. If you don't want to learn about that, then that is a you problem. That is why it's not working. That is why you're not getting results. You can either outsource it continuously and expect that expense to be there, or you can educate yourself. You can't just expect to grow your business without some self-development on that front. Maybe the people you hire to do it will give you guides. I do that. I write guides on specific business-specific situations. People have hired me to create a system for them, tell them what information they need to put into the system and why, and I give them templates and documents and like tutorials, and I do all that and I post them on here. But people will always find a way to go, oh, that doesn't seem important, I'll ignore it. But it is important. I promise you it's important. And if you don't think it's important enough to understand why you need to do it, then I don't think you actually care enough about your business, and you just want to press the magic button and green arrow goes up, we got more views, yay. You don't understand that it's work, and you don't respect that it's work. But it's work that you either need to hire out for continuously, or you need to do the work yourself. It's unavoidable. I've worked with e-commerce people before where they wanted to update their website to have all their products on. They had a lot of customizable products, but out of the customized options, there were also like pre-configured recommendations for people who don't want to spend the time building their own options. I asked, what are all the products that we have? I need all the products. I need I need the information about them. I need the dimensions. I need the weight. I need the size. I need how much they cost. I need to know all of these things. I need to know the purpose behind it, the recommended target audience. Who am I trying to grab the attention when I write the description? I need that information. If you don't give me the information, then I'm just freewheeling. And then people would always say, oh, well, look on the website. That's the source for everything. And I go, no, it's not. Because I'm updating the source for it. And I asked about 20 times, I need this information. And if you don't give me it, I'm going to have to do my best guess. And then they wouldn't give me it for 2 weeks. And they get pissy and ask in meetings, oh, why haven't you done it yet? I need the information. And then they go, oh, just do your best with it then. And I come back and I go, this is what I've got. This is what I'm working with. Is anything incorrect? And they go, oh, it looks fine. Yeah, looks good. No problem. And then we come back 2 months later where I've done all this work, where I tried to plan and I tried to get the information and no one gave it to me because they didn't care and it wasn't their job to care. And then it comes back to me and they go, why isn't this on the website? Well, you didn't tell me it existed. But it does exist. We've been selling it for years. What do you mean it doesn't exist? And I asked you and it wasn't on the list. And you never introduced it to me. I've never seen this thing before. And that's like, as a marketer, I can't create the thing for you. You have to have the thing and have your objective and have your target audience and have what you want to achieve for it and your call to action. And then I will do the work to get it seen and make sure people understand your intention, understand the benefit to them, understand your goals. I will translate it to the human psyche. I always say that IT is computer work that happens to involve people, and marketing is people work that happens to involve computers. People will ignore you. And people don't want to learn. And that's fine if you don't want to, but you have to understand that you may not get the result you're expecting if you don't engage in the process. Even at the end of this whole thing that we went through of like the back and forth of I don't have the product data, so I can't create the information on the website for you for the shop. Even after all that, they eventually went, oh, it's obviously too overwhelming. We'll get another agency involved. And we did. The agency we worked with were brilliant, not even disputing that. They were great at their jobs, but it was the fact that they were like, oh, we have this proprietary AI tool that can write product descriptions for you, and it's oh so fast and it's great. We just need to give it this certain information. And it was the same information I was asking for. It was supposed to be like, oh, because it's AI, it's faster and it'll do it in bigger batches and it'll make them all like sync up with each other. We were actually writing better ones on the products where I was given the information. They just didn't want to give me like the dimensions or the weights or the thickness of certain things. And they didn't want to give that to the agency either to input into their AI tool, which was actually unnecessary all along because they just weren't cooperative. I don't have the product data. I've not been in the warehouse. I'm not the one making it. I don't know. You have to communicate it to me. And if you don't want to do that, you're not going to get the result you're asking for. To this day, I don't think that ever worked out. I actually left before they resolved that one. I feel like it never happened. But I feel like I've ranted enough. I have more to say, but it's not going to be productive. And I just feel like people need to know that if you're going to ignore everything your marketer is telling you, then maybe hire out a developer. But if you're going to hire a developer, don't expect to understand what they're doing and don't expect to be able to just, oh, can you just change this? It's real quick. It'll take 5 minutes. It won't take 5 minutes. Sometimes a requested change can require completely rebuilding the back end of your website. And if you don't want to have the risk of that scope increase slowing you down for months of briefing out the spec and understanding what you need to achieve it with and how it plays into what you already do, if you just want to be able to update your own website and edit it at a whim, stick within the existing system. Stick within the content management system. A lot of plugins are just predetermined code that people put out en masse and has already been tested and the hard work's been done for you. And yes, it has the features that they offer. You can't request the features. You have to find ones that have the features that you want. It's not custom code, but it's safely tested code, and it will tell you when plugins have conflicts, but they have existing documentation to tell you how to use them. And all you gotta do is read that documentation and understand it, and not blindly guess and just hope and pray that you're typing in the correct word in the right place. When you take the time to learn and understand it, then stick within the existing systems. But if you don't want to do that, hire someone, but know that you will need them perpetually, because business is unpredictable and systems that you don't understand can throw hurdles that you don't know how to solve. You either have to learn how to solve them yourself, or you have to expense for someone else to understand it. You can't do this half and half nonsense. It's not going to work, and I just need people to know. I feel like this went longer than I intended to, but yes, thank you for watching. If you do want to talk digital marketing stuff, then I have a Discord server, and I would love people to ask me questions about what they're having trouble with. I've had people messaging me on Instagram specifically, which is interesting because I don't actually use Instagram that much personally. I check the notifications, but I don't really scroll myself much. But I've had people messaging me with questions on stuff that I've covered in the past that they felt like I'm sort of left a blind spot. Then if you want to ask me something specific, ask it in the Discord, and I will either make a video about it, or I'll respond to you in there, or I'll do both. And that would be really nice if people joined. The link is in the description below with the rest of my social media. Thank you, and subscribe.